This is a small clip from one of my main videos. If you like it, then please check out the original video. Okay, bye, love you. Earwax. If you ask me what I enjoy about playing Jackbox with friends, I'd say it's the funny moments, the laughs. There are plenty of games in the series that I still enjoy despite not necessarily being comedy-oriented experiences, but above all else, I'd say that I enjoy the funny games the most. And well, chronologically speaking, Earwax is the first game within the Party Pack series that was designed to be a funny game. It's the first game I'm covering so far that was made for the sole purpose of generating funny moments. You could say that Word Spud from Pack 1 was supposed to be a funny game, but I honestly can't even fucking tell if that was their goal or not, so Earwax it is. First funny game. And let me tell you, for being the first funny game, Earwax sure is funny. Funnily fucking god-awful. So this is how a game of Earwax goes down. Every round, one of the players is randomly selected to be a judge. The judge gets to pick a prompt for all the other players, who then have to create the funniest possible response to that prompt by selecting 2 sound effects from a random list of 6. After everyone picks 2 sound effects to go with a given prompt, the group then gets the pleasure of hearing everyone's submissions play out one by one, each consisting of their first chosen sound being played, followed by their second chosen sound being played. After everyone's responses are heard, the judge gets to pick which one they enjoyed the most, which awards that player a point. The game ends when one of the players becomes the first to receive 3 points, and thus wins the game. To put it simply, it's sort of like Cards Against Humanity, but with sound effects. Honestly, it's a fairly clever concept that seems like it should be pretty funny, but it only takes a few rounds of playing to realize that it just doesn't really work most of the time, for a variety of reasons. First things first, the prompts. They're not good. I acknowledge that it's probably pretty difficult to come up with a bunch of prompts that lend themselves to funny sound effect answers, especially considering the sounds people can select are limited to 6 completely random options. But given that the sounds you can select are so incredibly limited and random, why are there so many specific ass prompts that are borderline impossible to work with? I swear, so many of these prompts feel like they were designed with exactly one potential sound combination in mind, but the odds of you randomly getting sound choices that squeeze into that paper-thin realm of possibilities are extremely slim. And not only are there incredibly specific prompts, but there are also blatantly unfunny prompts. There are prompts that literally make no sense. There are prompts that would only maybe work in any other game but this, like what hot dogs are made of. Alright, I got a question. How am I supposed to comedically describe what a hot dog is made of with fucking sound effects?
What hot dogs are made of.
So this in itself makes the game pretty challenging, because many of these prompts are just inherently difficult to work with, but that problem is greatly accentuated by the sound effects themselves. As I've been saying, you only get 6 sound effect options per round, and just like the prompts, many of them are just not that great. There are a lot of sounds in here that you're just never gonna need because they aren't all that funny or just don't really fit many situations. So when you're restricted to a combination of 2 choices from a selection of 6 random sounds that probably have no comedic value in their own right, let alone when paired with the specific ass prompt chosen by the judge, you are gonna have so many rounds of Earwax when you read a prompt and then you just hear a bunch of fucking sound effects that have nothing to do with it, just pure and utter nonsense. And hell man, some of these sounds just straight up shouldn't even be here, like orgasm. Alright, listen, Jackbox Games, love your stuff, but what were we doing here, man? Why is this in the game? This might have been fine if it was like a stupid joke orgasm like oh. But no, this is a realistic, long orgasm sound that isn't funny and just makes everything uncomfortable. Why is it here? But luckily, with the new family-friendly toggle available in Pack 2, you now have the option to play this game without risking hearing a literal orgasm sound effect. Yeah! But orgasms aside, the fact that a lot of these sound effects just aren't that useful is a much bigger problem when you remember that every player gets a different selection of sounds. You just kinda have to get lucky enough to be the person that gets the good sound options on the fitting prompt. It sucks, because this game would likely be a lot funnier if we could create our own sound responses using whatever comes to our heads, instead of each getting 6 different random sound choices every round that probably won't have anything to do with the prompt. And even with those 6 random choices, you can't listen to them ahead of time before submitting them, and with how vague and confusing these short descriptions can be, it is incredibly likely that the sounds you end up submitting won't sound how you imagine they would when you chose them. I understand that if players are using their phones playing in a room full of people, you can't just let everyone preview their sounds out loud for everyone else to hear. I get it, it just kinda hurts the experience a little bit. And lastly, this game can drag. The delivery of the sound effects is too slow and not punchy like you'd want them to be, and judges will often re-listen to submissions due to forgetting how they sounded after hearing so many in a row. And depending on the size of your group, it can take a long ass time for the game to end, since it only concludes once a player reaches 3 points, and submissions are anonymous. When you're in an unfunny game of Earwax and want nothing more than for it to end as soon as possible, you really feel every moment someone's awarded a point, but they weren't one of the people who were 1 away from winning, so you have to keep playing. Every time that happens means at least 1 more round of Earwax you'll have to play. It can get unbearable. So yeah, all in all, I think Earwax is a bad game. However, in recent times, much like Word Spud, I don't know man, I just can't hate it. Now don't get me wrong, This game sucks, but when you're with the right group of people, a group with a brain-dead sense of humor, the type of group that'll laugh at some fucking fart sounds, this game can be pretty funny. I refuse to give the game itself any credit for that because the laughs are never for the right reasons, but it can be pretty funny. Hearing a prompt and then hearing everyone's horrible yet honest attempts at responding to it with their atrociously limited sound choices can be absolutely hilarious, and sometimes you'll just happen to get some lucky matches. I don't think this is a good game. I would shed no tears if I was permanently banned from playing it ever again. It is absolutely on the low end of the Jackbox spectrum and is usually pretty unfunny, but every now and then, it'll catch me at just the right moment and make me laugh. So in conclusion, play something else.